In our last video, we started learning about variables in JavaScript, and we learned how we can declare variables, assign values to them, and how we can reassign values to them after they've had a value. In this video, we're going to go ahead and continue talking about variables. So to get started, if you can go ahead and go into your project folder, let's go ahead and go into the 8-variables2 folder. Go ahead and go to the start subfolder, and let's open up main.js and index.html. You'll also want to open up that index.html page in your web browser. So we saw in our last video that we can declare a variable by using the var keyword and then providing the name of the variable, and then we can also assign a value at the same time. And so I'm just going to do a console log here. And so if we save and refresh, you'll see that we're printing our variable's value to our console. So in addition to creating variables with the var keyword, there are two other keywords you can use for creating variables. These two keywords are let and const. So both of these keywords were not part of the original JavaScript programming language. They were added later in a later version. And we'll be covering this further in the JavaScript versions video. But for now, just know that you can use these two keywords when you create your variables. So you may be wondering what's different between var, let, and const. And so const is a unique keyword because it's used to create variables that cannot be reassigned. It's a constant variable and it's not meant to be reassigned. So for example, let me just go ahead and comment this out really quick. I'm going to do const a equals 2. And if I do a equals 3, I go ahead and save my code. And we'll go ahead and do console.log. Let's go ahead and log a before and after the reassignment. And let's go ahead and save and refresh our code. And you'll see right away that we log our constant value a here, but then we get an error. And the error is an assignment to a constant variable. So by using const, we can guarantee that in our code, if we try to reassign that value later, we will get an error in our code. So as you can see, using the const keyword is important when you want to make sure your value of this variable is never changed. It's immutable. So in addition to the const keyword, we also have the let keyword. So I'm going to do let b equal 3. So the let keyword is used to create a block scope variable. So we will be covering scope later on in our course. So for right now, just know that variables declared with the let keyword are different than variables declared with the var keyword. So what's great about variables declared with let is that these variables can be reassigned. So they're similar to the variables declared with var because we can go ahead and do console log our b value. And then I can go ahead and do b equals 4. And if we go ahead and log the value of b after that, you'll see we have 3 and then 4. So if you do have a variable that will need to be reassigned, you'll definitely want to use let over const. So another unique thing about let and const is we cannot redeclare these variables because we will get an error. So for example, you'll see we have a variable called x and we have it declared up here and assigned. And so down here, if I do var x, and I do console log, I go ahead and log the value of x, and then let me go ahead and get rid of these two lines of code here, so that way we don't throw our error anymore. And let's go ahead and save and refresh our code. So another unique thing about let and const is that you cannot redeclare these variables after you've declared them. So when you use the var keyword and you declare a variable with a unique identifier, if you redeclare that variable later, you can do this and it will not throw an error in your code. So for example, if I redeclare the variable x and I do a console log to go ahead and print out the value of x, let's go ahead and just comment out these two lines of code here with our const because those are going to throw our error. We don't want that right now. And if we save and refresh, you'll see that we declare our variable x up here and assign it to 2, but then down here we redeclare that variable. And then when we do that, the value of x is still assigned to 2, so we don't actually lose that value, but we can redeclare it. So as you can imagine, if you have some complex code, you may think here that we're declaring a variable x, it would be undefined, but because we've already declared it, it already has a value, so it could lead to bugs in our code. If we try to do the exact same thing with a variable that's been declared by let, so if we do var b, and we go ahead and console log the value of b, we should get an error. So if we save and refresh our page, you'll see right away before we execute our code, we see that b has already been declared. So this is very helpful because it helps avoid these types of errors here that we talked about. So same thing, if we do let instead of var here, we'll get the same error.